If people have a reason to exist and they don't have a reason to persist, but they have a reason to try to be different and try to be right about how they exist and how they choose to exist, and they can choose to exist in a way that chooses to exist. Better way than they may have existed before, but they may not exist that way. If lesser is what they've existed, is what I say. And God tells me it's right to exist better if better is what you can exist, because better is always better if that's what you choose to exist. You can choose to exist lesser, but lesser isn't right if right isn't what you choose to exist. If lesser is what's right to you, because right isn't yours to choose. If lesser is what you choose to live, when better is what you can do, if better is what you can exist. You can exist better in every way by you choosing to exist better, simply because better is what you choose to exist when you're right. To exist better because right is a way to exist, is when right is what you exist, when right is what you choose to exist, and you exist in that right. To exist that way because right is how you can exist. If God tells me that God is something that you can use for yourself to exist better too. He doesn't leave it up to us simply, but he does leave it up to us to choose to believe in him and his son Jesus Christ too. And if you choose to believe in him like he believes in you, then he believes that you can exist better because that's what he chooses for you. To exist better in your way and his way too, when you share him the way you do. When God tells me that it's okay to be someone who doesn't know God and be right about living right and sharing that the right they live is the right that they can share because they live right, because they believe that the right that they exist is the right that they know is right for them to show and to exhibit to others, because their right is to share their right when their life is right despite not existing with God in their life. But when everybody exists with God in their life without really knowing that God is there, because God is something that God says we all can share. Although we may not share faith in common, we may not share a faith of a type in common, we may not share a religion in common, and that's something that God says is okay. We don't have to be right about each other's faith. We don't have to be wrong about each other's faith too. We don't have to be in judgment of each other's faith to say that your faith is wrong and mine is right, and yours is right and mine is wrong, or yours is the same and mine is the same as yours. We only have to look at it differently in the same way or in a different way, just so that we know that the God that we pray to and that we worship is the God that we know is the same God, but the God that we have in our life is not the same God to some others who may say to say such a thing is wrong, to say about different faiths because it's just wrong. I say, no, it's not wrong to say that, because God tells me. If you have a God in your life, and any kind of God at all, then the God that exists in your life is the same God that exists for all, because he's the one that makes all the magic thing happens that you believe are magic to you. But to your God, it's just facts. To him, they're just facts. His reality is not your reality to say, because your reality doesn't say what his reality is. Our reality is our limited reality of what exists and what's real. God's reality is beyond any reality that we can really understand or exist to understand. We are at the beginning point now. We are at the precipice now. We are at a point in our existence where we have earned our right to exist as human beings and as creations that he made so that we could be the lives that we exhibit today in this way. And if I share that God is something that I believe is truth, then I believe that God is something that's true for me and for many of you. Many of you who believe that God is right for you, and God is right for you to believe, and when God is right for you to believe, then he can say to you that I believe in you too. But if God says that you're not right to believe in you, then you're not right to believe in you is not true. You have every right to believe in you in any way you choose, whether it be right or wrong is not true. You can be wrong in life and create a lot of good from your outcome of wrong, and the wrong that you exist can be what is the impetus for much good to come afterwards, true. But if the wrong that you exist is the wrong that you exist, then you pay the price for that wrong that you exist. And if the wrong is yours to say is right today but is not right tomorrow, then the right that you exist today is still the wrong tomorrow, and the wrong tomorrow is the wrong today that you existed, because you were wrong to exist in that way and to believe that you were right is true. But if your wrong today is not the wrong that you want to exist, and you want to exist the better right because you believe that the right to exist your way is the right way for you to exist, then your way to exist is not the right way today to exist, if that's the way you choose to exist is right. But if you want to exist better, then you can exist your own way too, but you can exist better by simply saying that you don't wish to exist that way is true. But if your right to exist your way is your right to exist, so your better way is better be right. That's what God says is true. Because if you share your right way to exist and you insist that it's right, but it's wrong for others to exist that way because it's wrong ultimately, then you're wrong to share it now. It's your right to share it, because those who need to share it are the ones who need to know that you're wrong to share what you share, and ultimately to say that you're wrong to be right in your way today. Today you can be right, tomorrow you can be wrong, but ultimately if you're wrong, then you are wrong. And if wrong is what you exist and you don't know what you exist because wrong is what you exist and you think that it's right, You have every right to say what you say is not true until you are wrong to know that it's right that you say that you are wrong and the right that you exist, because the right that you exist has been wrong all along, only to insist that your wrong is the wrong that others shouldn't exist because they need to see what wrong looks like when someone says that they're right even though they're wrong. So when someone is wrong and they continue to exist and they persist, then they are wrong. No, they are right to show the wrong that they are to others can see. The only way we learn about wrong is by others to see the wrong that we exist, and the wrong that we exist is the right that others get to see. When we self-show them that we are wrong and to exist in that way only because we exist it and they persist to exist with it as a right that they believe is right too. Until they agree that it's wrong, that they should not exist in believing in that, and then that wrong is what persists to be the right conclusion about the right that you thought that you were when you were wrong ultimately all along. We don't learn the difference between right and wrong simply by existing right and wrong. We share the right and wrong in the way we exist with others who watch us exist that way. And when we exist that way, then we can say that we are wrong only when we are wrong if they're the ones who say that we are wrong to be the way we say we are right to exist. And if the right that we exist is not the right that you persist to exist, then your right is to exist the way you wish to exist is true, but your right to exist that way is yours to exist only if you are right ultimately to the end of your existence. And if your existence is short, but you don't have a time to go ahead and correct that you were wrong in your existence, and others who come after you, who exceed your lifespan, will be the ones who will judge you correctly if they're correct to judge you that your wrong was right or your right was right all along. And if there is a way for others to say, why are you right about anything at all? And I would say, I don't know. I'm the guy who talks to God and God talks to me, and I just say the shit that he says for me to say to you. And I think it's pretty cool that he does that with me. And I'm not really the guy who thinks he's all cut out to be that. To be honest. I'm not. God's got a sense of humor. And he's not really showing it to you through me because I don't think it's funny. He wants me to be serious, and so I say, Father, what is it you wish for me to say? And God says this, Mr. Rahman, that's you, that's me. Oh, God. He says, you're not an ass clown of any real relevant proportion is what he tells me. So he says I'm doing a fine job with the things I do today in this live. Because there's those of you who have maybe watched for a little bit and watched me play with the words that I play. God tells me that I didn't get anything wrong in the way that I described the things that I described between right and wrong, and then consistency of the intellectual direction of the conversation is consistent and extraordinarily difficult for anyone of high intellect to be able to do, but not to follow. Despite your intellect, to follow is not hard to do. And that sounds insulting to me to say to anybody. No, sorry. Praise God for you on the left. This is my lamp. It's not in broadcast today. I don't like it as a broadcast. Okay. Father, who I call God? I call God. God says, if a person chooses to be joyful and happy in the way that they exist, in the way they show life, and the way that they show life is the way that they can show life to others too, that life is something that is worth being shown. If I show life my way and my way is not your way to see life, then my way to see life is not your way to see, is not me to say, but you to judge and you to comment all you want. And I can take whatever it is that you say I'm right or wrong about. Wrong is not wrong for me to hear. Sometimes wrong is what we need to hear, so that wrong is what we can learn from and we can look at and say, is this wrong for me to believe is wrong? Is wrong this right that I see, or is wrong the right that I know that I've been all along because I think I suck at what I do? I question it sometimes. But if God tells me, oh, I need a water break. I am not sponsored. Okay, God is a very serious subject for many people, and I take him very seriously too. If God tells me it's joy that we can experience with each other, through each other, and because of each other, and because of him being in our life, then we are the ones who can enjoy the joy that we feel when life is something that we enjoy. We can enjoy life to a degree that we don't know is real, because joy is something that He loves for us to deal with in every way and everything we do, and deal it to others too. And we can deal joy out. We're the dealers of joy, and dealing joy is a badass thing to do. In His eyes, is true. He doesn't like the way we fight with each other. He doesn't like the way we argue with each other. He doesn't like the way that we conflict with each other and ends in conflicts that end up in violence. But He doesn't know any other way is not true. He doesn't know anything is not true. To say God knows nothing or He does not know something is not for us to say, because He's the one that made us and made everything that exists, and everything between you and every atomic particle that's perceptible by science today, and is still not perceiving enough of a science that can see even cannot see even the most fractesimal fraction of what truly exists, of what is visible, if what is visible were to be made visible by science. So that makes us pretty infantile in the way that we can describe God, if God is something that exists beyond anything that we can describe, because we can only describe Him for what we know and what we've learned, and what we know is pretty surface, as God says, is true. We cannot describe God because the limitations of our existence and our perceptions. It's true that we can't describe Him. It's true. And God says, this man, me, Mr. Roman, has to go to the gym to get my health on better. So I had to go to the gym right now and work out, and I just worked out a little bit here, practicing. What God tells me is true. What I do here now is not practice to Him, but it is an exercise of my ability to speak through Him, calling His voice the words that I speak, only because I'm bold and not dumb enough to say that.